Hello everyone, I am Hedgie, and it is Friday. Definitely not my usual day for streaming. As I said in my Discord, I've been having some serious health problems that have been getting in the way of being able to maintain a steady streaming schedule. But we're working on that. I'm hoping to be coming back from it very soon and doing things more regular. I will also say that my father is in the hospital right now, and we're getting a lot of calls since this morning when we had to put him in there about his health conditions. And if we get calls during the stream, I will have to put you guys on a momentary hold. I'm gonna be right back, and we will at that point come back. They generally aren't long phone calls, but we do need to maintain that contact if they need us. Okay, so what I am cooking tonight is a nice easy dinner for us. It's a bit of prep work, but I've cut back on that where I can. By using things like already sliced mushrooms and things like that. So tonight's dinner is going to be a beef and shrimp yakisoba, which is a Japanese dish which mixes noodles. In this case, it's spaghetti. They have a noodle that's quite similar to spaghetti, but it's hard for me to get my paws on, so I just use spaghetti. And they mix that with an assortment of fresh vegetables, mainly the hard vegetables like onions and carrots. You see celery show up in it. It's definitely got cabbage. It's got cabbage in it, usually broccoli, mushrooms, and I'm throwing in some zucchini and celery because I like zucchini and celery. And I will be using my old friend, the raw tail off, peeled and deveined shrimp. And I'm also going to be using a nice steak. And it is seasoned with oyster sauce and some soy. Now, generally, the yakisoba is, they mix it with a teriyaki sauce that they've toned down a bit with oyster sauce in it, so it's not quite so sweet. But I have not been able to make a good teriyaki sauce, and teriyaki quite often has garlic in it, so I don't use a commercial one. However, the oyster sauce has no garlic. Yay! Anyway, so I felt like I was at a quandary. I really wanted to have smothered chicken fried steak and mashed potatoes and gravy and all that, because it's just terribly comforting. But the store had it on sale, and basically that makes it so they're sold out, so I can't get any more of that, at least at the moment. So hopefully that recipe will come back to haunt us, because it's a really good recipe. Who doesn't like mashed potatoes, eh? So, okay, we are going to start out by, I am gonna make the noodles because it doesn't matter when they are finished. Sorry, I turned away just then. Doesn't matter when they are finished because they're kind of not that material to the dish. It's in there and everything, but it's not an exciting part. Everybody knows how to boil water. At least I hope you do. Fine. The other extension cord on this, which I have now found. All right. I will have power in a second. Everyone say it with me. Power! That little blue indicator light says this has power to it now, which makes me happy. This is filled with water. It's got a couple liters of water in here, along with a fuzzy. Let me get the fuzzy out of it. I don't want the fuzzy in it. Okay. So, cover that up, turn that up to medium high. It is in there. And we'll get that started while I start cutting up the vegetables and things I need. So, I got some baby broccoli. Sorry, sweet baby broccoli, they call it. And it is basically just young broccoli sprouts that will turn into, they're not broccoli florets, they are actually a young vegetable here. It is an entire broccoli plant, unlike if you use just florets, which would just be these top bits when they were mature. So I have got about 3/4 of a pound of this, and that's one of the things with with most of the Asian dishes. They're very fresh, and I'm reducing these in size. And I am going to put them in one of my new containers here when I am done snipping them up, so that when I add them to my wok, which I will be using to cook, I don't have to do a lot of sorting. Now, because these are all cold vegetables here, they are members of the cabbage family, the cauliflower, and the actual cabbage I have, which is just a coleslaw package here. And what you have is shredded green cabbage with carrots, and that is actually what I would have done if I had shredded it myself. But you know, let's save a few steps where we can. That just makes it nicer. Who needs to take extra steps if you don't have to? So we have the baby broccoli here, and that is going to be given a reasonably light stir fry, along with some sweet onion, the mushrooms, the celery, the onion, the zucchini, and then we'll cook the meat. And now there's nothing wrong with these stems. If I was doing something different than putting it in a stir fry, I would probably cut up the stems too, but I'm just not gonna this time. When the stalks get older, they get kind of woody. I'm sure that's the reason why most people eat broccoli florets and not the entire broccoli branch. We're just being picky, really. The fiber in it's great. It's just a little harder to chew, or you have to cook it a bit more. And generally, it's gone out of style to cook the living tar out of your green vegetables until they become grays or browns. When my grandmother was growing up and doing most of her cooking, that soft, mushy texture you get from canned vegetables, she would cook her vegetables until they had that same consistency, and it was kind of gross. One thing she did not do well, at least by today's standards, it was fine and kind of expected. Everybody did it that way when she was growing up, and she was growing up during the Great Depression, so it was a while ago. People nowadays like to steam the broccoli. They make broccoli slaw, like coleslaw, but it's made with shredded broccoli. They eat it lightly steamed. They make it grilled. It's a wonderful vegetable that has a lot of uses, but you don't generally see people cooking the living tar out of it anymore. And you're not cooking out all the nutrients, and that is all staying with the vegetables. Not to mention it makes it more interesting to have texture with your vegetables, to only stir fry it lightly so that it is softened, but it still has a bit of crunch. It resists the tooth to some extent. That's basically what we do for almost every kind of vegetable these days. You don't typically see people cooking all their vegetables till they're just wilted and they've kind of lost their color. And that's just very unattractive. So I've got my broccoli in here. Doesn't come to so much once I cut the tops off. But these will add a nice little touch to my vegetable medley. I have got a bunch of celery here. Celery is a wonderful vegetable. Doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own, but it does add a nice texture, and it's pretty good for you. It makes a wonderful vehicle for getting dips into your mouth. Do we have anybody watching, honey, or is it just you? Am I talking to just you? Doesn't really matter if I don't, because my followers will see my VODs and watch them anyway. But I'm just curious if we do have somebody live that I can say hello to, other than you. MPH is here. That's wonderful. Hello, MPH. If you're just lurking, that's certainly fine. Haven't seen you in a while. You popped up in a stream I had a little while ago. But I know that you do work. You have your own cafe, and it's just, you're a very busy person. So I can appreciate that. I like the Asian foods both to eat and to cook. They're interesting. They aren't the usual for us in here in America, so for the most part, and it just kind of makes them more of a, I don't know, almost like a treat, I guess. I mean, my husband and I used to get Chinese food or teriyaki or get pizza on payday Fridays. So I have come to think of it both as a treat and a staple, because I like stir fries. We used to have them quite a bit, especially when I was more strictly vegetarian. And we had some really nice Chinese restaurants where we were working, and so that was one of our possible treats. It was something we didn't have to cook, plus it was delicious, and because of the way we generally ordered, it wasn't unhealthy for us. If we got teriyaki, it was particularly not unhealthy for us, because it's most Japanese foods meals are far heavier on vegetables, not so much on the deep frying as you see in the Americanized Chinese food, but Asian recipes in general are very much about the fresh vegetables and quality fresh ingredients, and not smothering the flavor of everything with a lot of really strong spices, including the G word, garlic. They may contain some garlic, but they have a much lighter hand than we're seeing in American cuisines these days. You can't swing a cat without hitting something that has just tons of garlic in it, and drive down the road and in between restaurants, and all you get is this giant waft of the garlic smell. It's kind of overpowering, and that also kind of indicates maybe they're using a little bit too much garlic in their recipes. So the Japanese food in particular seems to focus on just the taste of fresh ingredients. So you get the fresh vegetable taste, you get the fresh seafood or chicken or pork or whatever it is they're using as their protein source. And if they have a sauce on it, it is a light sauce. It isn't something, you know, really powerfully spiced or heavy. And that's kind of nice. So they are both lighter, both in what they choose to use in their cooking, but they're also can be considered a light cooking in that it's more about the fresh tastes than it is about the sauces and spices that go in it. They are pretty reserved about that, which just makes a nice change. So that is the celery, and that was about 6 stalks, I believe. 5 or 6. And I am going to get an onion out now. Now these sweet onions have more of the standard shape of a sweet onion. A regular yellow or white onion or red onion is very round generally. Sweet onions, and this is a Mayan sweet, have this, it's round in one direction, but they aren't very deep. That's a typical sweet onion shape when you're looking at them. Oh, I missed a stalk of celery. Oh well, I think I just gonna chop that up real quick and probably end up just crunching on it during stream and annoying everybody. Okay, so I've got my onion here, and this is the end that grows. This is the one that has the shoots that come out of it and grow up that kind of look like the tops of the green onions. And this is the root end, and we don't want to take off that root end because that will hold the onion together while we're cutting it. I am just going to cut off the very top and get that out of the way. Now, sweet onions are milder than your regular onion. They have a tendency not to make you tear up, and they also have a noticeably mild sweet taste to them. Raw and cooked, they're even sweeter. So they make a wonderful onion for adding to practically anything you're cooking, really. But they are especially nice if you're going to do, like, for instance, a baked onion. I have a very good recipe for baked onions, and they're baked in cream and butter and cooked until they're soft, and oh, that's a wonderful recipe. I'll do that for people someday here. My husband and I are very fond of onions, so that would be something that is nice. There's also a dip version of that you can, to warm dip, you make it up ahead of time, and you can keep it hot in a crock pot, or you can just microwave it and then serve it with sliced toasted baguette or crackers or vegetables, even, like, for instance, our friend the celery, and use it as a scoop. So that would be something for the future. Maybe I'll do an all onion show and just show you a bunch of different onion recipes. That could be entertaining. I could actually make an entire meal out of onions if I chose to. I wouldn't, but kind of a bit much. Now I'm going to go ahead and thinking. Something like that, yeah. Fried onion on a roasted onion with onion gravy and onion tea, yeah. Well, I might make a vegetarian dish that does use onion gravy. That would be roasted spaghetti squash with fried tofu, and it's got some onion in it and spaghetti squash, like I said, and it's tossed together with the Parmesan cheese and some butter and parsley, and then it is served with either as is, or if you want to make a bit more of a thing of it, you make onion gravy and serve it with onion gravy, and it's just delicious. Makes a wonderful Thanksgiving type dish if you're going over to some place where they aren't really equipped because they're not vegetarians, and yet you still want to be a bit festive. That is a good dish to do it with. And actually, so is bringing over the baked onions, or bringing over like I said, several of the dishes. I got used to doing that when I was vegetarian. I would go to my relative's house for Thanksgiving, and I would get the well-meaning response of, well, we have salad and you can eat the sides, can't you? But they didn't really know what to do about some sort of main dish. That spaghetti squash is a main dish, and it kind of also takes the place of stuffing, because it takes the gravy so well, and it's just surprisingly luscious. A lot of people that they're not that fond of the tofu if they're not vegetarians, but they do like that spaghetti squash dish with the onion gravy on it. I know several ways to make spaghetti squash that are quite delicious, and I will share them someday. Kind of the point of this, and that's going on to say, folks, that if you see recipes of mine that you like, I would love to have you use them. They are listed. All of the ones that I have used on stream are in my Discord under stream recipes, and in addition, if you use those recipes and someone says, wow, I'd really love that, can you give me the recipe? Yeah, the answer is absolutely. If you want to share it, share it. I'm not possessive of it that way, but it would be nice if you said, I got it from Hedgie. Okay, I'm going to move this close again so I can scoop the vegetables into it. What am I down to? I am down to needing a bite of celery. Tofu does have kind of a strange texture if you've never had it before, especially given that the kinds of tofu have their own textures. Silken tofu, I'm sorry, is my crunching really loud? Silken tofu has a pudding-like consistency. So you find that a lot. They put it in desserts and dips, and make it into substitute sour cream or substitute cream cheese. With the firm tofu and extra firm tofu, it's considerably more solid, especially once you press the liquid out of it. Generally, that is used for frying and adding it to other dishes as a protein source. And that's actually what I use all the time, is the firm or extra firm tofu. I could have made this yakisoba with that as well, but I'm supposed to be eating meat, so okay. Alright, I am last cutting up these 2 zucchinis. It's another squash, very lovely, healthy, and for you. It's getting close to boiling. I am just going to cut these, first cut off the top and bottom, the stem and the blossom end, and then I am going to cut them lengthwise once, and then cut off half rounds of them. I don't really want to make this tiny. The idea behind this dish is that you see the lovely fresh vegetables instead of just seeing kind of a mulch added in there. You like your protein to have either gone moo or oink, not squish. Well, that's not exactly true. Eggs go squish. You like eggs and their protein. Talking to my husband, Andrew Mantis here. He's also my mod on Twitch and my stream tech, who takes care of, well, everything technical, everything from setting up and tearing down to the cameras and the software and combining it all to make this magic. I basically picked the background. I just picked the background. He puts it together so it looks pretty for y'all. So that's nice. Yeah, my husband loves beef. He loves pork. And unfortunately, because I'm allergic since he's married me, he has not had pork very often. I've bought him the occasional pork pie. And, you know, that's pretty much it. I made him pork loin once, and I made a mistake in what I was picking up at Costco. I thought it was actually a beef loin, and it was not. It was pork, but it was on such a good sale. But I figured, what the heck, and I seasoned it up and seared it, and I then took and roasted it in the oven with parsnips and rutabagas. Well, we call rutabagas what those in England call Swedes. No idea why. Doesn't make sense to me, but anyway, they're very hard root vegetables. I cannot stand rutabaga. It tastes very bitter to me. Definitely not in my attained food preferences there. I've never learned to like it. It was actually a dish that my great aunt Mebs made every time we went to her house. It was there. It was sort of a festive thing. She would cook them rutabagas and parsnips, and then she would mash them together and put butter in it, and it was the unimaginable horror of my childhood nightmares that I'd have to eat this, and I always had to eat one spoonful of it, and then my parents were happy. I just had to have eaten one spoonful, and I usually choked it down with about half a cup of milk because I couldn't swallow it otherwise. It was just so nasty to me. But it is a very popular vegetable for some people, so yeah. Anyway, he enjoyed it greatly. I made him a pork gravy for it, and he ate it for a while, and then I froze the rest into TV dinners for him. But that's the only time I've done something like that. I've never cooked him a ham or pork chops. I have made him bacon and served him things that I put bacon on, but I don't really plan pork meals because it's just, I have to wear non-latex gloves in order to even handle pork safely. So fairly bad allergy, I would say. All right, I am getting down to the very ragged edge of what I'm cutting up before I hit the beef. And that was one of my shrimp bags trying to bonsai off the table. It did not make it. It shall not escape us that easily. Frozen shrimp are very affordable. It doesn't do terrible things to their texture or their food value or their taste. So it's a really good way of dealing with not having to pay the higher prices of the thawed shrimp that they sell in like the fish markets. It's very rare that you see actually fresh fish, actually fresh shrimp. They usually freeze it and then thaw it and then sell it to you. Hey, Glittered Kitten, how are you doing? It's nice to see you this wonderful day, and I'm glad you're joining us for my beef and shrimp yakisoba, which is a Japanese stir-fry and noodle dish. It's one of my favorite things to get at teriyaki restaurants other than straight teriyaki, which then I have some issues with. But there was a teriyaki place I knew that made it without the teriyaki sauce, so it didn't have the garlic in it, so I could eat it. I'm doing better, but my father's doing worse. He's actually in the hospital right now, and they're not really sure what's wrong with him. He started having seizures this morning. So he's at the hospital, and they're doing some diagnosis. I think it's pretty much past rounds time, but if the phone does ring from the hospital, I will be putting you all on a brief be right back, and I will return as fast as I can to you. Organizing myself. All right. Time indeed to cut up the beef I have. And this is a round steak. Got it knocked off. No, you. Okay. This is beef top round steak, which is a tougher cut. It needs to be very thinly sliced and quickly cooked, or it toughens up. And the other way to cook it is low and slow, low temperature, many hours. But it's also a very affordable cut of meat, so I go for that. And if I'm doing things like if I am doing a beef stroganoff, or if I am doing a fajita or something like that, flank steak is usually not what I choose. I generally choose round steak. They both have a lot of the same properties. So the meat tends to be tough, has to be cooked, like I said, either for a very short length of time, or it has to be cooked for a very long time, very low heat, and then it will be really tender. Yeah, yakisoba, yum, yum, yum. It's one of my favorite things as an easy dish to cook. It can have any variety of vegetables. It tends to have cabbage in it and carrots. It usually has mushrooms and broccoli. and then onion. And after that, you are looking at pretty much any of a wide variety of vegetables they add to it as well. I am cutting this very thin, as you can see, and not very long. And I believe, yep, it's ready. The pot is ready for my pasta to go in there, which, as I said, they do have a different noodle that this actually uses, but it's enough like spaghetti, and I have a hard time actually finding the actual noodle. So I just use thin spaghetti. Tastes the same, looks only slightly different. Really? Why can't I open this? There we go. Going to tear it limb from limb. And then carefully put the spaghetti into the pot, which I didn't do last time. So I ended up throwing spaghetti all over everywhere. And you just add the spaghetti here to a pot of boiling water, which usually stops the boiling dead. And I am going to be adding 2 pounds of pasta to this because I want to make a ton. I don't have enough energy right now to be cooking regularly, so when I do cook, I might as well make a big batch that we can freeze part of it and have several meals out of it instead of just 1 or 2. So that is my excuse. I'm hiding behind it. And that's the way it goes. Another really nice thing about the boxes is they tend to give you a recipe along with it, which can sometimes be very interesting. 8 to 10 minutes, so I am going to cook these for 9 once I get all of the pasta in there. Now, with spaghetti in particular, it doesn't tend to all fit in nicely at the beginning until it softens enough to shove it down. And I really should not be doing this with my fingers because I will be plunging them into almost boiling water. But do as I say, not as I do. My mom always used to say that to us. Do as I say, not as I do. Because she could judge things like the distance of her fingers from the danger, and I guess sometimes that was just what they said when they did it the fast way rather than the safe way. So just a few minutes in the water and the spaghetti softens up. Well, yeah, LD does stick his paws into boiling water all the time, and that's because he's an actual chef and they get desensitized. Their fingers toughen up from all the burns and the cuts and so on, and it makes it so it's a little safer for them than it is for the rest of us. This now needs to come back up to a boil, and it will boil for 8 to 10 minutes. I aim usually in the middle area of that, and I've got my new little friend here who is a hedgehog timer. So I am going to put this on for 10 minutes. I'll put it on for 9. And I'm going to set this here to the side, and it can keep us all company while it ticks away, or as I like to think, it clicks. And go back to slicing my beef. Hey LD, how are you? It's nice to see you. How's your run going? I know you've got a solid run going. The last time I looked in on you, LD. It's been a while since your schedule really coincided well enough with mine so you could drop in. I'm very happy you're here and decided to come share with us tonight. I am making beef and shrimp yakisoba, and that's just an easy stir-fry dish with pasta basically, and it's something that is difficult to buy out, especially for my mother who needs a more restricted sodium. Yeah, I am. I'm asking about your new challenge. Uh-oh, it's a pink pig. I need to find that little devil. I don't see her, actually. Let me see if I can uncover her. Okay, this is beyond me at the moment. I'm gonna have to have my husband come out here and find Pink Pig if he wants to see her. Because she is not on the chair as usual. She has run away. Shame on Pink Pig. Oh, that's right. You want her displayed this way? Okay, so for this Pink Pig, we have Pink Pig wearing my hedgehog hat. La! Kind of looks like he's eating her. Pink Pig! Yay! It's a Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig! Yay! And now she will tear off the hat and come back in as her natural self. Pink Pig! Hello! For Pink Pig! Yay! Yeah, it's a little psychotic, but she's very cute. You wanted to watch me struggle? Oh, thanks a lot, sweetheart. I suddenly no longer feel guilty about flipping today's stream on you. So, yeah, I gave him a couple hours warning. I had been saying I was just going to stream tomorrow, if at all, but I woke up and things were all in a tizzy and I needed something to both take up my mind and to feed the family that wasn't TV dinners. So, as I said, this is about a 8/10 of a pound. It's more than 3/4 of a pound, less than a full pound of top round steak, and cut thinly and sauteed quickly. It makes a wonderful beef to add to like stir fries and fajitas, and of course things like beef stroganoff. Sorry, my mind is kind of fractured at the moment, so anyway, my happy little hedgehog. Yeah, my mind is all squiggly. I assume they can hear that. But we have got the recipe for my last stream up. I have not got this one up yet. Oh, it's boiling over. Let's fix that. Maybe hit the temperature down a bit. And I've got the pictures up from it. That was a fettuccine alfredo with shrimp and mushrooms. And it was just lovely. It really was gorgeous, with the creamy, velvety Parmesan cheese sauce and some really nice quality large shrimp. And I'm going to take this off so that we don't have to try to chew through this little bit of tendony stuff. It does tend to make it extra difficult to chew. So I'm just going to take that off. And then I am going to, once again, stir my spaghetti, which I swear is getting pretty darn close to being done. Let me grab a noodle as I can. That's gonna hurt. probably very close to being done, judging by how it's reacting. Yep, it's done. Okay, I am going to turn off the heat under that and just let it sit there. It's a little bit too al dente right now, but I'm not going to use it right away, so just turning it off and leaving it in there. This is top round steak LD. It was on sale, and some of their other steaks that might have been a better choice were not, so I am doing it with flank steak, or pardon me, not flank steak, top round, and being careful with it so that it doesn't get too tough. And I will be cooking this in a wok and seasoning lightly. All right. All right, so at this point, I am going to take, and since I was handling raw beef, I'm going to wash my hands. Okay. And then I am going to unplug my thing here. I'm going to take this actually off the heat because these are solid cast iron burners, and once they heat up, they tend to stay hot for quite a while. And there goes the timer, my cute little hedgehog timer. Yeah, top round has a very nice flavor. Top or bottom round, some sirloin makes great burgers, you're right. And sirloin would have been a good choice, but it was horrendously expensive for some reason right now. I don't know why, they're bouncing things up and down. I am getting out my wok now to use. And let me get the dust at the bottom of it. And I'm going to plug in the heat to this. It's really neat, this Aroma 7.5 quart wok that I have here. It's an electric wok. It has a trigger on it that actually helps hold the, you see it has a little arm under here, and it swings up to engage and disengage, and it makes it so when you slide it in, it's locked in place, unlike some of the other electric devices like this that have the plugs. And if you bump the cord, the thing can fall out. This is a little different than that, which I welcome. Okay. I will move this over to be the thing that is in the top place of your image, or at least where the steak is right now. Now I have the next appliance plugged in. And do a little bit of rearranging here. Okay, so this is my wok. You guys will have an excellent view of my wok. And I start out by adding a couple tablespoons of oil to the bottom. And I am going to turn the heat on fairly high because when you're stir frying, the idea behind stir frying is a great amount of heat, but for a very short length of time. I am also, because the first thing I'm going to cook here is going to be our proteins. Don't really suppose there's a reason for that, but I do it anyway. You can cook the vegetables first, you can cook the meat first, I just recommend you don't try it at the same time. Divide your attention too much. And let me see if I have any way to pry this thing open. I am opening up a bottle of oyster sauce, and it's got a crimped lid on it. There, I got it open. And oyster sauce is water, sugar, salt, oyster extracts made of oyster, water, and salt, MSG, modified food starch, wheat flour, caramel color. No garlic. And it basically adds a really lovely umami flavor into your food. And that's the Japanese word for an indescribable flavor, basically. It's not sweet, it's not sour, it isn't salty, it's something. Mushrooms have umami, and so do oysters. It's a lovely thing that they use a lot in Japanese and Chinese cooking. And you can see this is hot already. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of the oyster sauce to this, and I'm going to let it cook a little bit first before I add in my beef. I'm just going to kind of let it flop and hope it flops away from my face. There we go. And just stir fry this in that oyster sauce. And the oil that I'm using in this is canola. You could use corn oil, you could use olive oil, peanut oil, whatever you want to add the flavor to it. I like corn oil, canola oil, because it has a very mild flavor. It doesn't add a lot of itself to anything. Pure vegetable oil is fine too. It's similar with the taste, but that's a mix of oils. I think that the olive oil adds a bit too much of itself to the dish for me to want to have olive oil in my Asian recipe. So, like I said, this is a fairly high temperature. This is on a high, medium-high setting to get the frying done here that I want to do. And what you're doing is just cooking this as fast as it can. And it is also browning the meat, which deepens the flavor of the meat, which is good. And I am going to be, as I'm doing the stir frying on this, I am going to be just using the same oil and the assembled cooking juices from first the beef and then the shrimp, and to be cooking the vegetables in as well. So, kind of like in a good soup, you get a good cross profile of everything that you're putting in your dish. It's all being cooked together, even though it's being cooked apart. The only one that's really going to be alone in this is the ground steak. Sirloin is a good choice for things. If you find it on sale, you can cook it into fajitas fairly easily. You can cook it into beef chow yak or this dish, or make teriyaki with it. I wouldn't waste a really nice sirloin on cooking like this. That kind of deserves to go on the grill and be the feature of the meal, not just an added protein. So I've already got the thin spaghetti, which is standing into the noodles in this, already cooked, and they're sitting where you can see them. I've got the vegetables all cut up and ready to go in their order. The zucchini will be last. I am actually one pot short of being able to do this. You know what? I'm going to solve that by putting the zucchini in paper towels. So I can take a look at these. There's the zucchini. Put it on the towel. And the meat here is probably cooked to a medium at this point. When you're cooking meat in particular, actually it works with anything, but if you're aiming for a particular temperature on your meat, if you are aiming for a medium, you are going to be looking at stopping it before you actually get to medium, because your food will continue cooking for a little while after you take it off the stove. A few minutes it will continue to go on. So if you cook your meat to, say you want to have it be medium rare, chances are if you actually cook it to medium rare, what you're going to end up with is a medium to a done meat, depending on exactly how, what temperature you cooked it to and your cooking method. So I'm going to take the meat out of this now and set it aside. Yeah, I'm noticing that a lot. Things that were fairly inexpensive once upon a time, not so anymore. The prices on milk has gone up. The prices on all the food has gone up, and it's just kind of a bit of a roller coaster. What it is that's gonna, go insanely high, that shake your head and say, "Darn it! I should have got it last week, because last week this was $2 a pound cheaper." And we can blame our gas prices on that. Everything's price is going up. It takes longer to get things, and the prices for the people are going up with that. So, I have two of these. I never did. There's the second one. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more of the oyster sauce to this. Stir that around. And I have these frozen large shrimp. They are wild caught, and they have been deshelled and deveined. And deveining basically is cutting out the intestine from the back of the shrimp. If this still had a vein, there would be a very black, what looks like yarn running down there. It's basically their little colon, and they remove that for you. It's not a difficult process, but it's nice that they did. And they took off everything that makes this inedible, so you can just eat the whole thing. You don't have to watch for where the tail fins are or anything like that. They made it easy. So, especially using partially frozen shrimp, that took all the heat out of my I took all the heat out of my wok right away, but it'll get it back. Don't worry. It will. It's already fighting back. And a lot of people think that seafood is really hard to cook. It's really not. You get really high grade quality when you buy the frozen shrimp and frozen fishes because they are preserved at their most perfect condition, and that gives you a better product down the road, and it's cheaper than having to try to fast ship it and fast sell it and not have a lot of loss, because seafood goes off in a flash. You only want to have it around for a day or two maximum before you cook it, and buying it the same day that it was caught and cooking it that same day is going to give you the freshest food and the best flavor. But it's kind of difficult to do. Now, when shrimp is raw, it's kind of translucent. It kind of looks jelly-like and gray. It's somewhat clear, but not all the way. When it gets cooked, it shifts both the color. It loses the gray color, and that gray goes to white. And in the areas where you see the segments of the shrimp, it goes pink. And that pink pigment that comes forward when these are cooked is the same pigment that colors the feathers of a flamingo. If you didn't know that, that's an interesting fact, that if a flamingo is fed a different diet, one that doesn't have shrimp in it, then what you're looking at is a white bird. And I have now sampled the beef, and I did get it. It is a good medium, and the meat is tender both because of the way I sliced it, very thin, and also because we cooked it on a high, quick heat, so it didn't seize up. Just taking the opportunity to take a couple sips of my coffee. Okay, these are starting to cook, and this will give us a lot of a liquid here, both because they were frozen and because as things cook, they always release juices. They always release the water that is part of them. What you want to do is you want to cook these shrimp until they are white, not gray. Here, I'll show you the difference. I've got a shrimp that is more cooked than the other one. As you can see, one of them has kind of a jelly-like gray color to it, and it's a little translucent. You can almost see through it. The other one is white, and it has pink edges on it because that shrimp is almost cooked because of where it was in the pan. That's why I'm shifting things around, and when I see that the shrimp are actually cooked, I will remove them so they don't overcook and put them in there with their friends, the beef. This is sort of a surf and turf dinner because we will be having beef and a seafood, which has always been considered kind of a luxury, especially if you are away from the coast, where we have easy access to fabulous seafood pretty much 24/7. So upcoming, I will be doing as in what is new in the Pigloo and what's to come. I am editing for the final time, doing one last pass through my cookbook, Cooking with Hedgepigs, hence the name. And then I will be publishing it in a PDF form, ebook form, that will then be cooked through my sold through my merchandising site. And I will be giving you links to that later on when I'm ready for it, where you can buy some of Glittered Kitten's beautiful artwork she's done to me of hedgehogs. The giggling hedgehog, and there will be a pink pig, and things like that. You'll have the opportunity to buy those in mugs and glasses, in metal water bottles, in t-shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies, and tote bags, and throw blankets. So I've got a plan to get in your home through my merchandise, so that when you are relaxing and surrounded by the things you love and you're comforted by, Cooking with Hedgepigs is one of the things that shows up in that. The fact that this site could do it all, plus actually sell my recipe book, my cookbook, I thought was too fabulous to pass up. So in addition to merchandising opening up, now these shrimp are almost done cooking. I probably could have cooked them a little bit quicker if I had taken some of the juice out, but I really wanted them to have the benefit of the mix of flavors and the buildup of flavors that's going to be here. The shrimp will also continue to cook after you take them out, so you do need to be mindful of that. You don't want to overcook your shrimp. It gets a little tough. Really, that's the only thing. However, if it does get a little bit tough or chewy, it's fine. It still tastes good. Your teeth have to do some work. It's not a reason to get really upset if you overcook the shrimp by a little bit and they're a little tough. That's fine. That's almost any reheated shrimp dish you ever have. So they're not going to stay perfectly cooked that entire time. So what we have here, I am going to test one. I think they're done. And they are. I can taste the oyster sauce on this. I can taste a little bit of the beef, oddly enough. The shrimp on the inside is sort of a pearly white. It is completely opaque, meaning it is cooked all the way through. You can't see through it. And it does have that pink ribbon through it, and that on the outside, and that is, I'm done. So I am going to start taking us out of here. I will tell you, yes, the oyster sauce does add a salty taste to this. The shrimp, actually being a saltwater creature, they are higher in sodium than, for instance, bass or lake trout. Anything ocean-wise generally is, if you're talking about shrimp, or you're talking about crab or clams or anything that grows in the ocean, is going to be more salt laden. So something, if you are watching your salt, that you keep an eye on. So in addition to being white and tender, they also have that texture that I find a little hard to describe, and it's just a little crisp. It has a bit of a pop when you bite through the shrimp, and you want that. You want it to just be a pop and then tender, instead of a pop and then chewy, which means you've overcooked them a little bit. Again, not the end of the world. not 100% what you want either. So this is going to be an interesting to assemble dish. The bits and pieces are going to be cooked separately and then brought together at the end with the noodles and some additional sauce added in here. Probably should have asked for cornstarch, because that will thicken the sauce, although the noodles, if I don't drain them, and I don't intend to, will also do that. And we've been exploring that lately in the other recipes that I've made, like the fettuccine alfredo, which relies on the noodle starch to thicken sauces and to thicken the milk and butter that you've melted together in order to make the alfredo. It relies on the love and affection, I guess, of the pasta starch in order to do this. Okay, I think at this point I will be doing something very risky. I'm going to try to pick this up and pour the liquid off into my meat dish. Okay, there we go. I didn't want to boil the vegetables, so as you can see, it's very hot. I am going to add some more oil in. And then I am going to add in some more of my oyster sauce, about 2 tablespoons. By the time this recipe is done, you will have used most of this 9-ounce bottle of oyster sauce. And that's not a bad thing. It adds that lovely flavor through whatever it is you're cooking. And it's quite an attractive flavor indeed. All right, I am going to add the vegetables now to give them a little stir fry here. And to remind you, that's the sweet onion, the baby broccoli, and the celery. And I am going to give this a bit of a stir fry here. Still has some of the aspects, the flavor aspects of the other ingredients that were cooked in here first, because I didn't wipe the pan down, but it will be a lighter touch than it would have been. I actually put in a new emote I got from Glittered Kitten the other day. Yeah, sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. That is the... I actually have my thing in the wrong place for this. Let's see if that helps. I put the screen in front of the microphone between the wok. Did that help with the sizzle? There is a hedgehog that is crying. It's my new emote. So I have a sad hedge pig now too, somewhere. It's in the approval process last I saw, but life has been especially busy between my poor health and unfortunately my father's collapsing health at the same time. So I haven't looked in it recently. Is that the sad hedgie? Yes, your health remains coffee, and we're all happy that it's just coffee that allows you to keep going. Now, sauteing these, or actually stir-frying these under high heat in oyster sauce and a little bit of oil, is actually browning the onions a little bit at the edges. which is how you know it's stir frying rather than deep frying. And that's part of the stir frying, that you get this browning of the vegetables and the meat that happens very quickly with a high heat application. And the woks are shaped perfectly for frying these things, removing your bits to different edges, and it changes the intensity of the heat. And it allows you to cook things longer in the same pot than you would be able to in, for instance, if we were doing this in the Dutch oven. That is an interesting idea, honey. If you drink enough coffee, I can vibrate through the dimensional planes to go to a universe that's going backwards and get younger. This continues my British husband's idea that he is actually a Time Lord. Which he is not. Okay, now that I've got this a little cooked, it's not as cooked as I want it to be, but that's okay because I need to add in the mushrooms and get them working to get down. Ouch. You know, the edge of that is really hot if you touch it with your arm. Yes, I married a Time Lord. I married one of the doctors, but which? If you know Doctor Who lore, you know that he actually has more regenerations than the standard Time Lord, and that he may in fact have far more than 13 or 14. I believe he is actually on his 14th regeneration that they know of. You are in no part of you Scottish. I am, so I get to be a grumpy hedgepig. This is going to be a dish that's going to be assembled in multiple containers. Because as usual, I have almost completely filled this and even softened with the broccoli in here. This is going to be more than this container can hold. So I will just keep cooking that until the broccoli is crisp tender and the mushrooms have cooked a little bit and the onions have continued to soften, and the browning at this point is gone because the vegetables have been releasing liquid into the pan here, and the mushrooms are going to do that before I'm calling it done. Then I will still be adding the zucchini to it in a little bit, and then we add in the meat and the juices, and then start adding in the noodles so that they can thicken the sauce. When I reach 200 followers and I have my book completely edited to my satisfaction, right now it's running about 400 recipes, and it's all kinds of recipes from Mexican to Italian, Thai, Japanese, Chinese, Midwestern comfort food, seafood, wild game, beverages, a lot more desserts than I ever thought I had collected the recipes to. But it turns out my family has a very interesting array of recipe collections, some of which like the recipe for ginger snaps, that go back to the end of the 1800s. So I've got a lot of recipes in there, and a lot of them are very old and precious in our family. I am going to share them all with you, and when I reach 200 followers, I am going to give away at least one of my cookbooks free. It will be a prize in a drawing for someone, and then I will put it up for sale on my site, which I got from Glittered Kitten. She told me about it, and it is spring.com, and they have a lovely lineup. I can put my logos on. Hey Connor, how are you? Let's get some shout outs here for some people. We have the Long Dark Forever, my friend LD, who is a professional chef, and he also streams the Long Dark. And it was his urging in a large part that got me to even try cooking streaming. So if we could get a shout out for the Long Dark, that would be awesome. I am making mushroom and shrimp yakisoba, Connor, tonight. Then let's get us a shout out for Glittered Kitten, who not only does all of these beautiful emojis I have, and a lot of other people have, but she gave me information on where to get my merchandise and how to do a lot of different things. She's been tremendously supportive and helpful, and she's a fabulous artist in addition. So I highly recommend seeing Glittered Kitten. And she also, in addition to doing art streams, she plays the Long Dark. And she is helping to organize the autumn tournament upcoming. So that's a nice bit of excitement there. And I know she's been looking for assistance. I don't know if she wants me to advertise that, but within the community, she has put up an advertisement on the Discord for the Long Dark community. And if you have not found your way into it and you want to play the Long Dark, or just like watching it be played, join the Discord for that. Ask one of the other streamers. And last but not least, let us get a shout out for the Only Deaf Guy, who is a wonderful person, a young British chef out in Cheltenham, England, which is in Gloucestershire. And he and his uncle own the only cafe, the only place in all of Gloucestershire that you can get rotisserie chicken. And it is mouth-watering to watch him cook. He streams 6 days a week from his cafe live, and it is really something to see. They have a good time, and their food is just mouth-watering. Their rotisserie chicken in an herbed lemon seasoning kind of, then they put it in the rotisserie chicken in the rotisserie oven and cook it until it's just golden brown and juicy and lovely, and oh, I wish I could order some. You are that awesome, are you? Okay, thank you, honey. So I have got this in here, and now I am going to throw in my zucchini that I decided to add as well. You see the problem, don't you? This is almost full, and I don't have the meat or the pasta in it, and I have 2 pounds of pasta I'm going to be adding to this, so I'm actually going to be mixing it up on the side in a couple different containers as I add things to it. And then we will be having this for a couple days, allowing me not to have to cook again before my next stream, which will be Sunday. I am moving it to Sunday because I don't want to do a stream back to back. We just don't have the refrigerator space, honestly. I can hear Andrew saying something to me, but he's not using the mic, so I don't know what it is. Okay, so. Oh, okay. Or somebody yelling at the children that I can hear. I don't know. Zucchini is only cooked a little while. It is another one that is at its best when it is just tender but still crisp. As you can see, the mushrooms have changed color. They've gone dark. These are cremini mushrooms. Hey, Faded Epitaph, how are you? It's nice seeing you in here. Welcome in, welcome in. I want to say you're a streamer as well, are you? I'm not sure if he is or not. Why don't you give him a shout out and we'll see. That'll tell us if he is or not. The Long Dark community and the cooking community does tend to high towards the viewers also being in that particular, you know, they also tend to be streamers. So that's a nice little family thing going on there. Not a streamer, but maybe we can talk him into it someday. You never know. Welcome in any case. It's lovely to see you. And yes, I think we all agree leftover pasta makes a great breakfast, especially if it is leftover Asian food as well. So you get some chow mein or something like that, or the yakisoba that I'm making here, and that makes a lovely breakfast. So eat it cold, reheat it however you want it, just get it in your gob and eat. It is lovely. And with all of these vegetables, not bad for you. So it's one of the few ways I can get my husband to eat a lot of vegetables, is doing things like this. He has this mysterious conviction. I don't know where he got it from. I don't know why it occurred to him. But he has this paranoia that a caterpillar might have pooed in his food. So he avoids the vegetables and thus avoids the caterpillars. At this point, the broccoli is almost perfect. I just picked one out of there and tasted it. My way of saying I'm snacking while I'm eating, honestly. Snacking while I'm cooking. I will defend that as if you are a person who's having someone cook for you, whether it is in a restaurant or in a home, if the chef doesn't cook their food, doesn't taste their food while they're cooking for seasoning and flavor and doneness, run. You don't want anything to do with food that is cooked by a chef that won't even taste their own dishes. And I fiercely hide behind that as I sit here and pick out choice little bits of mushroom or broccoli or whatever it is in my pot that I'm cooking that I think is wonderful. So, by the time the zucchini is done here, the broccoli will be perfect, and I can remove the vegetables into another one of my big mixing bowl, storage bowl things that I have. And I can get the juices that are in this and use them to make a sauce with the noodles. buried again, and I'm going to let it sit there for a few minutes. And I actually can't believe I have forgotten the coleslaw, which is, in this case, 16 ounces of shredded cabbage and carrots to add to this too. As I said, this is a really vegetable-full noodle dish. If you order it in the restaurants, it tends to have a few vegetables here and there, mostly cabbage and onion, and a few bits on and off. It's actually, you control the amount of pasta you put in here, and it can be quite a filling dish with the vegetables and the meat that you have in it before you even get to the pasta. So it can be a higher percentage of the goodies versus pasta, or you can have it be more pasta depending on your finances. It's definitely cheaper not to put quite so many vegetables in here. But this is a pretty economical dish to make. The most expensive thing in here, the steak was like $5.99 a pound, and it was short of a pound. I have 2 pounds of frozen large shrimp, which is about $7 a pound. So yeah, that's about $14, about $20 just for the meat. And then it goes into the pennies range when you start talking about the broccoli and onion and celery. The mushrooms were about $4 for a pound of them, and the zucchini was a couple dollars. And out of this, you're probably going to be feeding, I'm gonna say 10 to 12 people. So if you're making it for you and you're single, you're gonna have 2 meals a day for a week easy. This will also freeze quite well. Yeah, exactly. Cabbage does add wonderful bits to it. I have a very good coleslaw recipe you might actually like. It has a bit of sweet, it has a bit of hot. It is a pineapple jalapeno coleslaw, and I actually make it to go with fish tacos. And that adds the sweet and the crunch. It has a bit of creaminess in it. I took my grandmother's coleslaw recipe, which is actually quite good. And I never really liked coleslaw when I was growing up, but I've gained an appreciation for it. I used her recipe, and I added in the pineapple to add the fruit to the coleslaw for a sweet coleslaw to go with the fish, and I added in a little bit of jalapeno. I added about 1 jalapeno, no seeds, membranes removed, so it's not too hot, but it has just a little bit of a bite, because when you're making a fish taco or a fish burrito, you do want a little bit of the bite there. And I don't tend to add salsa in addition. I'll add a pico de gallo, a fresh pico de gallo to it too, and that's a lot of fresh vegetables. But the coleslaw is good enough to eat on its own, and it tastes really good with fried chicken too. So that particular bit of sweet heat will add to fried chicken. If you're going to be eating coleslaw, take it to a cookout if they're going to be frying, doing hamburgers, or if they're going to be making barbecue chicken. That would taste really nice with those. And that's a recipe I will show you all later. If you want it before then, just ask. I'd be happy to give it to you. I like to encourage people to eat healthier. and vegetables is a good way to do that. Home cooking is a great way to do that. It doesn't have all the sodium, it doesn't have all of the preservatives that you have in commercially pre-prepared foods, and it also doesn't have, it has more of an eye for your health than honestly most restaurants. They look for making it taste good, which tends to raise both the sodium and the fat content. But you can't live by gerbil food alone. So, you know, every once in a while go out and splurge, otherwise you start feeling like you're being deprived. So, this is not done yet. It needs to wilt a little bit more. But not by a lot, actually. All right. I'm starting to see, when I look at the zucchinis, they have changed from being a flat white. They're almost the exact opposite of the shrimp. They go from being a flat white to being a slightly translucent, kind of creamy green. And you can see the seeds that are in the center as this like little, it always reminds me of a citrus fruit slice, the way it looks with the rind on the citrus fruit, and then the soft part in the middle. And that tells you that your zucchini is in a lovely, crisp, but still yielding and tender condition. They really do have the best flavor at that point. All right, I am going to take some of this out to put it in a side pan here because my wok is not big enough to do all of it at once. I should have asked Andrew for a scoop. That would handle this much better than tongs. I know. But I'll get it done with what I've got here. And I have now taken roughly half out here. And now, if you're going in there, can you bring me the cornstarch, sweetheart? No, you're a little too fast for me. And as you can see, I have the juice from all of the cooking down here in the bottom. Thank you. To this, I'm going to add in roughly half of my shrimp and beef. Hey Richard, how are you doing, buddy? This is really early or extremely late for you. Nice to see you guys. Pop in and say hello. And I'm going to add some of their cooking juices to this because I do want this to make a sauce. And I am going to do that in probably one of the stupidest ways of doing it, which is normally you would take this and you would whisk it up with water, but I am not doing that tonight. I am going, in my good friend the Prof's favorite way of saying it, YOLO, you only live once. I am just adding it freestyle here and putting it into the juices, and it will start thickening immediately. that was probably 2 tablespoons of the cornstarch, and that is converting the cooking juices into a sauce that is what they would call what normally would be called an Asian white sauce, but because I'm going to be putting soy in this, it's not white anymore. So all right, so I've got that, and now I am going to add some of my pasta. Okay, I will take this pasta and very badly take it out of its container. I'm going to use the tooth scoop instead. And like I said, this was not drained. It still has the starch on it. It will, in fact, help thicken the sauce as well. And, ow, that is really hot. That is really hot pasta. Not the most glamorous way of getting it out into here, but what can I do? So I am going to finish getting that pasta in here, and then I will begin tossing it around and mixing it together to make the yakisoba. All right, so I am going to put that spoon back in there and start mixing it through this way. This is going to need a little bit more sauce. I can tell that already just by the color of it, but that's fine. I was expecting that. So I'm going to add the sauce off to the side here where it will get down and get warmed, and that's adding another 2 tablespoons to this, which is now pretty much a full 7.5 quart wok, and that's half of what I have prepared here. So that'll give you an idea of the scale of this. You're going to make, for the advance of the proteins and the fresh vegetables, you are going to get a lot of food out of this. This is going to make a lot of meals, and that's a good thing. If you have a large family, or you're cooking for company, or you just want to be able to freeze this and have it be done with. I am going to turn the temperature down on this because this is actually now cooked, and I am just mixing the flavors in together with each other. And the content. So I will and when you see we've got it fairly well mixed, then we're going to call that section of it done. So I'll take the rest of my vegetables and meat and combine the containers there. So I can pull this out into a plate, which is prepared for me and behind me. And what we have, I'm going to use the tongs. What we have got here is a beautiful section of tender pasta, along with a light vegetable, seafood, and beef cooking sauce, mushrooms and onions and cabbage, and broccoli, zucchini, pieces of beef, and plump, happy fish, little shrimpies, and it's just a lovely, delectable mix. And since this will be my husband's plate, I will very happily put lots of meat on display. Okay. So this is our dished up and beautiful shrimp and beef yakisoba. And I am going to have my husband photograph this for me in my light box. I am meanwhile going to be taking this out here, and when he comes back with the plate, I am going to taste what I've got and describe it to you. He's almost done. And I'm going to take a little bit of the beef and some of the noodle, some of the veg in here. Wind that up like a pasta dish. Adding in the beef and a piece of shrimp. So I've got pretty much a bite of everything here. And you can taste the sweet saltiness of the fish. You have a mild impact from the oyster sauce. You can taste all of the vegetables in here. You can taste the mushrooms, and cooking it the way I did in different layers, it made it so all of the flavors combined. The vegetables are at the perfect point for each one. The onion and celery are quite tender all the way through. The zucchini squash is tender. The broccoli still has that crispness with a tender underline. The beef is perfectly cooked. It's about a medium, and the shrimp are gorgeous. And they know it. And I have now handed the plate over to my husband. We're going to find somebody to raid here, and let us see who is on that I can go raid. We have got, let's go raid Curie. Down here, let's go raid Curiosity. She is doing an evening stream of her wonderful TLD, and she's a good fan from here. Thank you so much, everyone who showed up. Thank you, Long Dark Forever and Glittered Kitten. Thank you so much. Let us please go raid Curie. She would love to find out what I'm cooking, and see you all as well. So we will see you on Sunday. Thank you very much.